So far, I've only done Shinso videos, but today's story is an Aizawa ex-listener, and I really enjoyed writing this one. It has some background info, so I'll read that to you guys first. You are petite with black hair and amber-colored eyes. Your quirk is cat. You have enhanced strength and agility, enhanced senses, night vision, and retractable claws. You can also shapeshift into a black cat with amber eyes. Most of the time, you look like an ordinary human, but if you are too distracted, sometimes your cat ears show. Human with cat ears is the state that feels most natural to you, but you try to stay fully human for other people's sake. If you get really tired, you shift to 100% cat form and can't shift back until you have enough energy. Also, there is some abuse in this story, so if that triggers you, be aware of that. I'm gonna link in the description and also at the end resources for if you are struggling with anything like that. Okay, let's get into the story. Your uncle had backhanded you for getting distracted and letting your cat ears show. You were fast enough to dodge most people, but your uncle's quirk was speed. The slap stung so hard that your eyes teared up. "No dinner today," he glowered. He sat down at the TV as you went outside for fresh air, and because you knew what would happen. You'd been tired already, and sure enough, the lack of food made you so exhausted that you shifted to cat form. Your uncle would hate that, so you had to find food then shift back fast. It was sunset as you padded down an alleyway. The golden-orange light made even the ordinary trash cans and crowded buildings of the run-down neighborhood look magical. Why did your uncle hate your quirk so much? Why didn't he ever approve of you? You thought you must be doing something wrong. As you rounded a corner, you saw a man sitting on a low wall outside what was probably his house. You froze, one paw raised, but he didn't turn to look at you. You sniffed hesitantly. The man's black clothes had only the faintest smell of clean soap, and his human scent was a nice one. Trusting your cat instincts, you padded silently closer along the broad wall. The man finally looked down over the edge of his scarf wrappings, gazing into your amber eyes with his own dark eyes. He calmly raised his hand, beckoning you closer. You approached slowly. The moment his warm hand touched you, you were filled with a sense of trust and well-being. Your cat instincts had never been wrong. This was a human you could rely on. He scratched behind your ears calmly. You purred, arching your back and rubbing against his side. The man glanced down at you, then back at the sunset, still scratching your ears. "You look like you've been through a lot. Haven't had much to eat, have you?" he muttered. "Come with me." He jumped off the wall into his yard with the same beckoning motion. You followed with a fluid leap, flicking your tail as you entered his house. The place was fairly empty, but the man got some cat food out of a cupboard, and soon there was a bowl of food and a bowl of water in front of you. You ate hungrily and lapped at the water. When your stomach was more full than it had been in a long time, you yawned and stretched. Your energy was back. You decided against shifting back to human form, though. Your rescuer thought you were a cat. What if he was annoyed that he'd actually used his cat food on a human? "Good appetite, cat," the man said, crouching next to you with a small jar that smelled like herbs. He'd noticed the scratch on your face from when your uncle hit you, and he calmly stroked your fur aside to spread the healing ointment onto the scratch. "I'll call you Eiko, because you seem young and have been through a lot, but I can see in your eyes that you won't give up. Eiko." You blinked at him with wide amber eyes. Your uncle only ever called you girl if he was in a nice mood, or useless hairball when he was drunk and mad. You felt a warm glow from being given such a nice name. The man let you out of the house, and he chuckled as you meowed thanks before leaping off into the dusk. You had to get back before your uncle got angry. You arrived at your yard within a few minutes and shifted back to human form. Your shifting abilities made it so that you were wearing the same ragged jeans and t-shirt that you'd worn when you shifted to full cat. You touched your face, still feeling the ointment the man had spread over the scratch. Your stomach felt full for the first time in ages. Eiko, you murmured, liking the sound of the name he'd given you. It made you feel stronger. Focusing a little bit so that your cat ears vanished from your messy black hair, you went back inside your house. Luckily, your uncle was passed out on the sofa, smelling very unpleasantly drunk to your superhuman senses. Over the next few months, your uncle kept getting worse, drinking more and more and getting angrier. You started to dread going home, but if you didn't come home on time, he would be furious. Sometimes your uncle's blows were so hard and fast that they left your body weak. It was all you could do to get out of his sight before you shifted to cat form. In those times, you always went back to where the nice man had given you food. Sometimes you found him on the wall. Other times, you scratched at his door until he opened it tiredly. Every time he talked to you softly as he treated your injuries. Eiko, you are a strong one. I wish you'd stop getting into fights with the other cats. One time, the man's friend called, and your ears pricked up to hear his name.
Shota!
A man bellowed through the phone.
You expelled half your class?
So his name was Shota. You kept listening, learning that he worked as a teacher at UA, where he was known as Aizawa-sensei, or Eraserhead. Aizawa Shota. You were happy to know the name of the stranger who had been helping you so much. Aizawa sighed as he returned to scratch your ears. I expel them so that they can learn the difference between avoidable danger and rational self-sacrifice. I won't have any students getting in over their heads, he muttered, glaring at the wall fiercely. You followed his gaze, seeing a photo with 3 schoolboys. A boy with cloudy ash-blonde hair grinned cheekily as he ruffled the hair of a grumpy young Aizawa. Aizawa turned away with a sigh. But you haven't learned that lesson yet, have you, Eiko? He muttered to you, still getting in fights. You purred. It didn't matter that he was wrong. It mattered that he cared. You groaned as you shifted back once you got home. Bruises covered your body. You'd have to wear long sleeves so people wouldn't ask about the ones on your forearms. On a whim, you also started wearing comfortable dark-colored clothing because it reminded you of Aizawa and made you feel stronger. Your go-to outfit became a long dark-sleeve shirt with loose pants tucked into the light-colored foot wraps you wore since your uncle never got your shoes. It was comfortable and loose enough to not restrict your superhuman agility, and it matched your messy dark hair. You wished you could wear short sleeves, though. One day, your uncle made you come with him at night to go buy brandy, since he didn't trust you to stay home without him. His quirk made him so fast, though, even for you. You sprinted to keep up along the dimly lit city street. Suddenly, you ran into a hard black wall, and you bounced backwards onto the street. The dark-clothed man looked down at you blearily, from over the top of his scarf. Are you all right, kid? You froze, staring. It was Aizawa. So this was what he looked like through human eyes. You noticed a lot of details that your cat brain hadn't picked up. His tiredness, his generally disheveled appearance with untidy black hair, and his tallness. He glared at your unresponsiveness, eyes narrowing. Do I know you? He stepped closer, staring into your amber eyes. You got up hurriedly, looking away from his gaze. Your sleeve had pulled up a bit. You hastily pulled it back down to your wrist, but you saw Aizawa's sharp gaze flick back to your eyes, and you knew that he'd seen your bruises. Come on, you useless girl! Your uncle bellowed, returning in a flash of super speed. You saw his eyes burn. He was not happy at having to come back for you. Sorry about her, sir, he said to Aizawa curtly, grabbing your arm and pulling you away. You hissed in pain at the way his hand put pressure on your bruised arm, but you followed at a run. You glanced back to see Aizawa glaring at both of you, brows furrowed. You were nervous the next time you went to Aizawa's for food, but you couldn't think of any other way to get the strength to shift back to human form. Your ears had shown again when you'd focused too hard on math homework, and your punishment was no lunch or dinner. Aizawa was on the wall this time. You meowed hesitantly. Glancing over, he picked you up gently and carried you inside. You ate the food he set out. When you were done, he picked you up again, scratching your ears as you curled up in his lap. You became sleepy from all the ear scratches, and didn't notice his other hand lifting your left paw until you felt the pressure of his fingers on the bruised area of your wrist. You yelped sharply. Sorry, Eiko. Aizawa resumed scratching your ears. Your fur prickled. He'd pressed where he'd seen the bruise on human you. Did he know? You looked up at him. He was looking into space as he scratched your ears, but his eyes seemed to burn. Oh no. Fear prickled at you. Was he going to be mad? Your heart felt fragile. You weren't sure you could handle it if he hated you like your uncle did. You surprised him by jumping out of his lap and padding over to the door. Your ears laid back flat in nervousness as you walked over, but he only opened the door so that you could slip out into the night. It was later than you had thought. How long had Aizawa been scratching your ears? You were so tired that time must have passed too quickly. You raced home and shifted to human form, panting. You slipped inside, hoping your uncle wouldn't hear as you tiptoed down the hall. The light turned on suddenly before you could make it to your room. Your uncle stood with arms folded, expressionlessly staring you down. "You useless hairball," he glowered. "What were you doing out so late?" "Nothing," you said, voice rusty because you never spoke much. He moved so quickly it looked like he teleported to stand over you, roughly tilting your chin up so you could see his glare right into your face. "Don't lie to me." Staring into his eyes, you suddenly filled with anger. You were sick of him intimidating you, sick of being afraid. You didn't care what he could do anymore. "Whatever, Uncle. I'm going to my room." He slapped your face. "Don't sass me, girl." You punched him in the nose, freeing yourself, and ran. You only had 1 second while he stared in shock at what you'd done. Your quirk made you fast, but not as fast as his speed quirk. You bit back yelps of pain as he became a whirlwind of speed around you, dealing blows faster than you could see them coming. You raised your arms protectively, but blows continued to rain down everywhere. You screamed from the sharp pain. He had never gone this hard on you before. Your hair whipped up into the air from the air vacuum of the blur of speed surrounding you as the blows beat you to your knees. "That's enough!" an angry voice shouted. Your uncle suddenly froze, looking astonished as he appeared from the blur of speed. You gasped for air. Your body ached everywhere. Aizawa stood in the doorway of your house, his eyes glowing red, and his dark hair floating from his power. His eyes never left your uncle as he strode forward. "You will never lay your dirty hands on this child again," he snarled, eyes flaming. His capture scarf shot forward and pulled your uncle towards him. Aizawa spun him around and slammed him into the ground, holding his head firmly to the floor with one hand. He efficiently cuffed your uncle's hands behind his back. You stared with wide eyes as you knelt on the floor. Sirens sounded outside. Apparently, Aizawa had called the police to come take your uncle away. The officers marched him roughly out the door as he cursed and struggled with his cuffs. Aizawa finally turned to you. "Are you all right, kid?" he asked. His eyes were back to their usual black, with a spark of concern in them. You nodded in shock. Aizawa looked at you keenly. "We're taking you to the hospital." "No, I'm okay." You started to panic. "They'd see your injuries. Your uncle would." "Oh, wait, it didn't matter anymore." You felt lost. Aizawa scooped you into his arms, standing. "We're going to the hospital," he repeated firmly. He carried you quickly to the street, waving down a taxi. Aizawa still held you in his lap in the back of the speeding cab. "Aizawa?" you muttered. "What is it, kid?" "I'm sorry," you whimpered, unable to stop the shapeshift any longer. Aizawa was left holding a small black cat which had passed out from the exhaustion of the injuries. You woke up in the hospital, sleepily, then jolted when you remembered what happened. You looked down. You were back in human form, but you panicked a little to see all the bare skin that your hospital gown showed, revealing your bruised-up arms. An IV attached to one arm. You twitched your ears. They were definitely cat ears, but you were too exhausted to hide them. A nurse came in. Her eyes widened when she saw you awake. "How are you feeling?" "All right," you said wearily. "Where's Aizawa?" The question came out before you thought about what you were saying. "1 second," the nurse squeaked, running out. She came back a minute later. "Aizawa wanted us to call as soon as you woke up. He was here all night sitting by you." You were startled. Why would he do that? The nurse left with a polite bow, leaving you to your thoughts. Aizawa burst into the room, breathing like he'd been running. Your ears twitched in surprise. "That was fast." "Yue. It's just across the street," he panted. You felt bad that he was missing part of his day job. "I'm okay," you assured brightly. "You can go back to work." You were also scared that he was going to be mad at you. Aizawa looked at you tiredly, walking to your bedside. His gaze fell on your beaten-up arms, and you saw the anger in his eyes. He was furious, but not at you, you realized with surprise. "How are you feeling, kid?" "I'm all right," you said nervously. In all honesty, your entire body ached. Aizawa sat down next to you. "I know an irrational deception when I hear one," he said dryly. He sighed as he looked at your pale, nervous face. "Kid, don't worry. I won't hurt you." "Aren't you mad that I made you think I was just a cat?" "I already knew." You looked at him in surprise. He gave you a flat look. "You seemed a bit different from ordinary cats, so the shapeshifter thought crossed my mind. Then I recognized you when I saw you with your uncle. When your injuries even matched, it was the rational explanation." "How did you know I'd be in trouble last night?" you said, trying to process. "I didn't. I only followed you to see if I was right about the shapeshifting idea. But then I heard things start to get tense. It was obvious that your uncle was dangerous. I called for backup, but didn't wait for them before going in." "Oh," you said in a small voice. So he'd figured out everything. That made you feel kind of scared and exposed, expecting him to be mad. But he wasn't. You stared at his tired face, starting to realize that he wasn't going to be. Unexpectedly, your eyes welled with tears, and your body began to shake with sobs. Aizawa's eyes widened in surprise. He sat down by your bedside, gently pulling you into a sort of comforting hug against his chest, while being careful of your injuries. You buried your face in the thick black cloth, hiding your tears as you sobbed. It was more from relief than anything. For as long as you could remember, you'd felt like everyone else would become as angry with you as your uncle had been, if they knew everything. If they knew about your cat-quirk, or about the injuries you sported, you were sure they'd see into your soul, and find the same flaw that your uncle always saw in you. You knew the truth now. Aizawa had figured out everything, and here he was, still as nice as he'd been when you'd first met him as a cat. "Hey," he said gruffly, "you'll be okay, Aiko." Thank you," you cried. Aizawa gently detached your hands from his shirt, standing up. "I have to go now, but I'll be back to check on you soon, okay? There are things we have to figure out." You nodded, becoming calmer. Within minutes of him leaving, you were peacefully asleep. The next day, Aizawa came by again. "So, kid," he said tiredly, "do you have any family who can take care of you?" You shook your head. Your uncle had been your only relative left. You worried. Where would you go? Aizawa sighed. "That's what we found, too. In fact, it appears that you were never even named by your aunt and uncle when they took you in as an infant, so searching for your records was really hard at first." He sat down by your bed, looking at you with tired eyes. "Before the investigation even began, I offered to take care of you if you didn't have any better options. I have a hard time picturing myself as a parent. But would you like to come with me?" Your eyes shone. "Yes." Aizawa looked surprised, then smiled genuinely, a sight you'd never seen. "Good, kid. I'll take care of you for as long as you want me to. Also, now that we've found your public records, you need an official name. You can take time to pick one, if you'd like." "I already know," you said. "My name is Aiko." Aizawa looked at you with wide eyes. You smiled. "My dad named me." Aizawa stared, then slowly offered his second soft smile. If that's how you want it, kid. You became known as Aiko Aizawa. Everybody knew that Shota Aizawa had a soft spot for you. Aizawa taught you fighting styles and helped you achieve your dream of getting into UA. He was always proud of everything you did. It was subtle, but you were really good at reading him, so you knew. Good old cat instincts. You became more confident, and even stopped hiding your cat ears all the time. Although quiet, you started to make some really good friends. Aizawa glowered a little bit at any boys who flirted with you, but you didn't mind, because you wanted more time for finding yourself and figuring out your personality, which had been suppressed all those years. Aizawa was very thoughtful about this, too, noticing every slight progress you made as you figured out your personal preferences, your sense of humor, your interests, and your own opinions. He was too gruff to say anything sentimental, but his eyes sparkled whenever he noticed you making a self-discovery. Seeing the fear leave your eyes and the light in them get brighter was the most precious thing to him in the world. If you got sick and shifted into a cat, he stayed up with you and scratched your ears and rubbed your back until you felt better. If you ever cried, he was there to hold you to his chest and reassure you. He always had the best insights about the world and about life, and gave the best pep talks. You were sure he was the greatest hero in the world, and you wanted to be just like him. Aizawa raised an eyebrow as he watched you telling that to a couple friends down the hallway. If he ever admitted to such a thing as feelings, he would have to admit he was touched. It seemed absurd that out of all the heroes, you wanted to be like him. Irrational Problem Child, he muttered fondly. You turned to look down the hallway at him, smirking. He'd forgotten about your superhuman hearing. He turned away with a scowl, while you chuckled happily. This is Anya K. I wrote the fanfic. I'll link... nothing else is mine, really. Just the voice stuff and the fanfic. So I'll link everything else in the description. Also, thanks for sticking with me. I took a week off because finals were brutal. But I survived, and it's summer, and I'm free. So I'm gonna make so many more videos for you guys. I love writing and recording, and you guys are the best. Have the best day.